How are we doing, guys? Not well if you're a New Zealander. Congratulations to Argentina. You know, we've been playing these guys in Argentina since 1976. We drew with them in 1985. It's a good year. It's about as close as they've come to beating the All Blacks at home. They finally did it today. Philippe Contepomi's men were heroic, energized, passionate, largely accurate. Not what the All Blacks were today. Now, not all hope is lost. We're actually leading the Rugby Championship after 2 rounds. And Damien McKenzie slotted a post-full-time penalty goal that might turn out to be an incredibly important bonus point, depending on how this competition evolves. But the ABs went down 23 points to 29 today. 3 yellow cards. Wasn't just that sunk them. You simply can't win a game of rugby without the ball, and the All Blacks did not get out of the starting blocks in terms of controlling possession today. Let's go back through the game, and let's see how we got to this point. Now, the Pumas had 350 caps on the bench, unbelievably star-studded bench there, and it would come into play, unfortunately, very early in the game. Just a couple of pre-match notes. This stadium looked incredible, and when the sun was setting, it looked like a matte painting from an Alfred Hitchcock movie. I mean, it was just absolutely picture perfect in Buenos Aires. The haka led by Cody Taylor, who brought up his 100th cap today, was absolutely spine-tingling. So many feels, absolute fire. But nothing matched the passion of the Pumas in their national anthem. It was an elongated version with a live brass band. And you know, sometimes I can judge how well the Pumas are going to do by how many tears are shed during the anthem. Well, there was a small river of tears in that anthem. They were so fired up, and you knew that they were going to come hard at the All Blacks. To a certain extent, they were humiliated last week at home. Didn't really fire a shot in that first half. They went down 31 points to 20. They started so much hotter this week. In fact, the first 5 minutes were all Argentina. Passionate, controlled rugby for 5 minutes until Adi Savia turned over the ball. But then something really significant happened. The number 10 for the Pumas, Albornoz, he went down. His hand actually got trampled by one of his teammates. He was in agony. They taped it up, but clearly he couldn't go on. Might have broken a little bone in there. Unplayable. They bring him off, and Santiago Carreras comes on. Man, he just grabbed this game by the scruff of the neck. Unfortunate to lose your first choice 10, but as I mentioned earlier, when you have that surplus of experience on the bench, you're in good shape for a moment like this. Not long after, the All Blacks lost a playmaker of their own. It was number 9, Cortez Ratima. He went down clutching at his sternum, bravely tried to play on. He simply couldn't hack it, and he came off touching himself mid-chest. Really feel concerned for the guy. Could be sternum, collarbone, ribs, who knows, got to get an x-ray, but that is really going to test our depth at halfback. In comes Finlay Christie. Now, a lot of you didn't want to see him there on the bench. I wonder, though, how would Kyle Preston have gone for 60 minutes? The experience of Christie was helpful, but at times he did look a little ponderous around the base of the scrum. Man, am I missing that whip-fast delivery of Cam Roigard. He cannot come back soon enough. We are all going to be wondering on an update about Cam Roigard's fitness. As it stands now, it could be that Finlay Christie is going to start against South Africa now that our top 3 halfbacks are crocked. Does that mean that Kyle Preston is going to debut against the Springboks at Eden Park off the bench? Wow. We'll see if Razor has to call up maybe a more experienced All Black to come into the squad. Big question marks there for the All Blacks. Big headaches ahead. Now, the All Blacks were more or less moving at half pace up to this point, but that's not to say there weren't flashes of brilliance. In fact, around the 20-minute mark, Proctor scored a great try for the All Blacks. We got a nice clean line out. There were strong carries before an absolute rocket of a ball in midfield from Will Jordan out to Rieko Ioane. He cut back inside, set up a nice platform, and it was that man Christie who beautifully popped the ball up to Proctor, who slid in 6-8. The ABs were up. In the 25th minute, more brilliance from the All Blacks. We got a nice scrum win. Now, the ball goes to Savea in midfield. He passes the ball out to Parker, who makes a nice incision. And then Savea plays halfback, pops the ball up for Fletcher Newell. I mean, the skill level from Savea here was simply outrageous. We know what he can do, carting the ball up, smashing it over the gain line, but his distribution here was silky, soft hands, just adding another feather to the bow of perhaps the world's best player this year. However, around the half-hour mark, it became clear that the more inspired team on the field today was definitely the home side, Argentina. Carreras at 10 did a beautiful crossfield kick to his brother Mateo Carreras, who then chipped ahead. The All Blacks diffused it brilliantly. It looked like a certain try. However, the refs had another look at it, and fullback Will Jordan did adjust his line to knock Mateo Carreras off his path after the chip kick. That meant that Will Jordan was going to the bin. Now, how do I feel about that as a one-eyed New Zealander? I feel great about that. I think that was absolutely the right call. Now, look, Will Jordan did not make much contact. Minimal physical contact, but it wasn't about that. It was the fact that he subtly but definitely turned in towards the attacking player and did knock him off course. So I've got no complaints about that yellow card, and it was just symptomatic of the ill discipline that the All Blacks started to show in this game. Why were the All Blacks raggedy and ill-disciplined? That's the million-dollar question. Because they were tired, because they had to defend so much, because they did not win and keep enough of their own ball. The All Blacks' ill-discipline was directly linked to Argentina's dominant possession. That is what I believe. And the Pumas were good enough to capitalize on their numerical advantage right away. Chocobaras carried very hard in midfield. The Pumas go blindside, and Juan Martin Gonzalez gets shoved over the line by a bevy of his teammates. Well done to Argentina. Immediately capitalized on that yellow card against the All Blacks. And in the process of all that, another yellow card to the All Blacks. It turns out that Tupou Vaa'i had knocked the ball down cynically during an attacking passage of play from Argentina. Cut to an absolutely chilling sight on the sidelines. Will Jordan and Tupou Vaa'i sitting together in the naughty boys chair. I mean, I was just sweating bullets, and not just because it's 100 degrees in Portland today. That got my blood pressure skyrocketing through the roof, and Argentina just started to rip us open on attack. However, I do want to give a shout out to the brilliant All Blacks defense in this 10 minutes. They were in a hole they should never have been in, but my goodness, they kept diffusing raid after raid from Argentina. The spirit, the togetherness was incredible. That was actually a high point for the All Blacks in this game. Their cohesion and mettle on defense in that last 10 minutes. Because they went into the break 13 all. I think a different team might have leaked a couple of tries there to Argentina, but the All Blacks more or less stopped the bleeding. The All Blacks held up one try, and moments later, brilliance from Beauden Barrett, who tackled the last ball carrier for Argentina. The pill spills out of his hands. A certain try goes begging. Wow, these were just phenomenal individual efforts from the All Blacks. My hat's off to them. In the second half, the All Blacks immediately targeted the breakdown, and that paid some dividends. They earned a couple of penalties, started to get back into their rhythm. Beauden Barrett, he went for a penalty kick, but unfortunately he did a bit of a James O'Connor today, which is to say he didn't really pack his kicking boots with him. Nevertheless, it soaked up a bit of time, and sure enough, Will Jordan and then Tupou Vaa'i were back on the field, and we were thinking as All Blacks fans, okay, let's just resume normal transmission now. But it wasn't to be. Argentina was throwing everything at us, including the kitchen sink on attack. And it was just some brilliant All Black scrambling D that shut down a few certain tries. At one point, an Argentine player was bundled into touch. I let out a whoop of joy because the tension was rising at this point. However, Argentina mixed up their tactics. They started kicking. Shorter kicks than the All Blacks had been doing, but they were putting heat on the ball. These were contestable kicks, and they were winning it. Why did the All Blacks lose today? Because they lost the battle in the air. That's not the only reason. That is a huge reason. They did not control the airspace in the second half. Will Jordan was forced to take kick after kick on his own. He bobbled a few. He didn't have much support. And quite frankly, there was just a lot more spice to the Argentina kick chase than the All Blacks were able to muster. When we kicked deep, we didn't have sufficient follow-through. Not good enough. Now, the All Blacks were operating at 100% line-out efficiency last week. You got to remember, they got 3 locks out there, right? You got Tupou Vaa'i, you got Scott Barrett, you got Fabian Holland. Finally, they lose a line-out. And so Argentina ends up attacking. The All Blacks knock it on in a ruck, and now we have an Argentina scrum. Predictably, Pablo Matera, who was a man possessed today. I can just tell when he's in the zone. You look at his face. He had those wide eyes, incredibly animated facial expressions. He was on fire. He was my man of the match today. Well, he peeled off the back of the scrum at number 8, set the ball up, and halfback Garcia burrowed over. 20 minutes to play, and the Pumas are up 26 points to 13. In the 61st minute, the All Blacks earned a scrum penalty. New Zealand went to the corner. In the 64th minute, we got a chance to set up a rolling maul. Remember, we scored 2 last week through Samisoni Takiahau. We got the rolling maul going, but it did not look as efficient and powerful as last week's one. Either that or Argentina's defense had a lot more sting to it. It got shut down by the Pumas, but it earned us advantage. The Pumas, in fact, incurred 4 penalties back to back here. It's kind of surprising they didn't get a yellow card, but that's okay. All Blacks have a penalty. They opt for a scrum right in front of the posts. They go wide. It's McKenzie to Sevu Reece, who is bundled into touch. However, Sevu Reece does something absolutely brilliant, which is he pops the ball back and it bounces off the thigh of an Argentina player, meaning the All Blacks get another bite. They throw into the line out, close to the try line. Samisoni is in. The rolling maul gets going. The backs pile into it, and bam. Rolling maul try to the All Blacks. Not quite as sleek as last week's efforts, but my God, some much-needed points on the board. It's a wide conversion, though. Damien McKenzie steps up, slots it as cool as Andre Pollard. Wow, the All Blacks are back in the game. Full credit to them for keeping their fighting spirit alive. The All Blacks did not give up. There was no lack of trying, no lack of spirit. Lack of accuracy. That was the problem. We've already had 2 yellow cards. Hey, let's get a third one. Sevu Reece gets carded in the 72nd minute, sticks his hand out cynically when the Argentinians are hot on attack. Another thoroughly deserved yellow card for New Zealand. And it just comes down to the brilliance of the offense from Argentina. They made the All Blacks make these mistakes because they were desperate. Cynical efforts to shut down a try because if they didn't do it, it was going to be a 5 or 7 pointer. The Pumas then kick a penalty. It is nailed in deathly respectful silence from the crowd. In the 75th minute, finally a penalty advantage on attack for New Zealand. It is now or never. D-Mac goes to the corner, but the All Blacks blow the line out in one of the more memorable moments in the game. Josh Lord went up. Samisoni Takiahau simply froze. What happened there? I don't think it was some kind of psychological choke. I think that they literally did not know what the call was because the crowd was so loud. And that is a factor in these home games for Argentina. Didn't really occur last week because the ABs kept their foot on the throat of the Pumas and then sucked all the life out of the crowd with 2 rolling mauls in the last 20 minutes. But today, because the homeboys had a lead, the crowd was singing, dancing, jumping up and down. Deafening in there. You could tell the All Blacks were struggling to hear each other on the field. That was a moment where the crowd was like the 16th man out there. Horrible stuff if you're an All Blacks fan. I mean, I just about spat my Bang energy drink across the room. Yikes. More punishment to come, though. Let's finish this recap. Matera is still playing like a man possessed who needs an exorcism. My goodness, he was just phenomenal. Argentina winds down the clock. All Blacks do win a penalty. Now, it's full time. Do we try and score a try? No point. No point. We need to kick a goal here. And so Damien McKenzie steps up with the game lost. Irretrievable at this point. The crowd's already celebrating, and he nails the kick. And congratulations to him and the All Blacks for that. The one silver lining in this game. If you look at the points table in the Rugby Championship, the All Blacks are at 6, leading the pack after 2 weeks. So like I said, it's not all doom and gloom if we take our emotion out of it and just look at how the competition is shaping up. That bonus point might be critical. Long way to go. But it might just be critical. And good, cool-headed thinking from the All Blacks to assess the situation out there. No point in chasing glory with a consolation try. Maybe get the bonus point, maybe not. Take the points. D-Mac was good enough to do that. But let's not bury the lead here. Argentina have made history and well-deserved. They played with so much passion and gusto. Nothing but love and respect for all of you over in Argentina. So what do we learn from this? The emotions are going to take a bit of time to settle down, but it's eerily reminiscent of last year where we dropped a game to the Pumas and beat them. Split series, story of the Rugby Championship so far. Every team has lost a game. But if we take a little bit of emotion out of it, where to from here for the All Blacks? Well, they need to work on their kickoff receipts. They were not good in the air. They need to contest the ball better when they're receiving it and attacking. Their attacking kicking game was not on song today. Going to be a lot of high ball work And, you know, you do want to just see a guy like Caleb Clark come back into the mix. We need a high ball merchant in the back three. I think we're suffering a little bit from that missing from our arsenal, having Sevu Reece and Rico Ioane out there. The kicking from 9 has got to be better. Sometimes we just kicked too long, didn't bring enough kick chase, basically handed the ball back to the opposition instead of making it a contest. It felt like most of the time when Argentina kicked, it was a contest. We need that against South Africa. Guys, I don't have the emotional bandwidth to analyze what this means for South Africa. We need to get some scans. We need to see which personnel are going to actually be on deck. The New Zealanders will head home, sleep in their own beds, see their families, have a beer, go fishing, whatever it takes, get themselves ready for the box at Eden Park in 2 weeks. We'll have plenty of time to regroup, but today belongs to Argentina. And once again, let me finish with a heartfelt congratulations to that team and all of their fans. Some of you watch this. You deserved it today. There is no doubt about that. Us heart-sick New Zealanders will not sleep well for the next few nights, but sure enough, we'll come up with a plan. And I believe this might even sharpen the game plan. Get back to their winning ways in New Zealand. From my mouth to God's ears. Guys, send this video to someone who loves rugby. Like, subscribe, follow my new Instagram page below. Be back for another one real soon. Kia kaha, keep your chins up. The All Blacks will be back. Bye for now.